IVM.
I asked Rahul Dravid as to what kind of team meetings happen. And he said, nothing, we all used to assemble in a coach's room. It was all informal setup. We used to order French fries and samosas. And last minute we'll have tea. And last 5 minutes they'll say that tomorrow's an important game. They'll say hello.
The Indian cricket team completed a historic win over the Aussies just a few weeks back. There is talk about whether this is the best team to ever tour down under. Kohli just recorded most wins outside the subcontinent for an Indian captain, which has led to the debate on who is the best ever Indian captain. Is it Kohli, Dhoni or Dada? But there is one thing that is beyond all debate. That is the fact that the period between 2002 and 2007 changed Indian cricket forever. During this period, there were many architects who laid the foundation for what would become a world-beating sports team. Among them, probably least known, is an Indian bank employee and a club cricketer who would later become the man who famously introduced the Moneyball equivalent to Indian cricket. The man to whom Sehwag famously dedicated his 300 in Multan. Welcome to the show, Ramky, founder of SportsMechanics and also a former member of the Indian coaching team. Welcome to the show, Ramky.
Thank you.
Like I said in the introduction, I think the most important contribution of your work life is probably the fact that you introduced video analytics to Indian cricket, so to say, right? But I'm getting ahead of myself in the story. I think that happened a few years back, a few years later in your career. I want to start off with what cricket means to you as an individual.
Cricket has been an integral part of my life. We've been having cricketers in the family. My dad played some league level cricket and my uncle played first division cricket. But in spite of having cricketers in the family, I started playing cricket very late, though I was really fanatic about cricket. And 10th standard, I studied in a school called BS Senior Secondary School where there was no cricket played. People watched me playing street cricket and, my uncle took me to Reserve Bank nets. He asked me to come for Reserve Bank nets. But the school refused to allow me to go for the nets. They asked me to play a role in Ramayana. I was playing the role of Rama, a Sanskrit play. So no cricket.
So clearly at that point you were a better actor than a batsman.
Yeah, that's what the principal thought. So it's against I hated her for that. And I told my dad I want to change school. And so he also felt that it'll be better for me to go shift to a different school. So he got a seat in a school called St. Patrick's. And I didn't want to join that. So I when he came and told me that, said, no, I'm not joining because I want to join Santhom because they have a good cricket team.
So to put it in context for people who are not from Chennai, Santhom, St. Bede's, these are all the Shraddha-ashrams of Chennai, right?
Absolutely.
In terms of cricket.
Absolutely. And so they were starting a cricket team as well. And Santhom had a great team, and in between there was a lull. And then again they were rebuilding the team. Cricket was an integral part to get me a job as well. So I got an offer from Indian Bank, which is in the 4th division. And they were building a team and they were recruiting cricketers. Srikanth, who's leading captaining Alwarpet, which is sponsored by TVS those days. He said, hey Ramky, why don't you come and play for Alwarpet? Play as a professional and pursue your CA.
So we are right now talking early 90s?
This was in 87.
87. Right.
I was wanting to go and join Alwarpet because they had a great team. You're going to play along Srikanth, W.V. Raman, all those people. And I said, great. And, my back home, when I came home, everybody said security.
Right.
Are you mad? Somebody's giving you a job, a bank job, which is so secure. And, if you get injured, what will happen to your career? And all that. And so everybody pressurized around me, Though I was not very keen to join, but I was made to join Indian Bank. And I loved it. I went there for an interview. They said, where are you staying? I'm staying in Adyar. They said, which branch do you want to join? They gave me a branch. It's 2 minutes walk from my house.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So all that was very convenient. I mean, and they had
and you had to play for Indian Bank as well.
But I had to play for Indian Bank, which is the 4th division. So I was a first year in first division. I scored 600 runs.
Is that a big thing at that point?
Yeah, from 10 matches, 11 matches, you get 600 runs. For a youngster, you are straight away hitting the headlines, right?
Right.
So you become noticed there and you're playing first division cricket. And from there, you go and play 4th division where, you're not recognized. It took, but again, I had no choice. So I had started playing for the bank and came the bank. We took the bank from 4th to 3rd to 2nd. And to first, by the time we got promoted to first division, and it took me a couple of years to settle down, I was 27, and I scored 1,000 runs. 2 consecutive seasons, I scored 1,000 runs in 11 games. And but people said you're too old to make a debut in Ranji Trophy. So my representative cricket journey stopped there. I didn't realize what I was doing to my career. I was just playing. I was happy when a customer recognized, hey, Ramky, I saw your name in the headlines.
Right.
It was for that you were playing.
Right. And the occasional mention in the paper.
Immediately next day the papers used to carry. I mean, you hit the headlines quite often, and the headlines was there, and the customers recognize you. Start building a fan following amongst your customers, and started increasing the business for the bank as such. So when I was practicing, and my dad bought a camera, so immediately I took it to my nets.
Oh, this is what, a VHS or a mini DV?
It's a Handycam. The Handycam which is there, and I asked my teammates to shoot it, and probably the video analyst in me started then.
Wow. Okay.
So I started viewing my game and finding out how that was the start for me to really know what the stance. I've never seen my stance except in the mirror.
Right.
But this is the first time I'm seeing a video, and you're able to play it in slow motion, frame by frame. We got a lot of information out of that, and I changed my stance looking at those videos.
And that worked for you?
And it worked. It worked brilliantly. And because anything I did, I was able to get a feedback immediately. Right. I was able to see what I was doing. I was a very serious cricketer. I was crazy. I used to shadow practice in the nights. Because you train like a professional. I mean, while playing for Indian Bank also, you playing first division cricket, which is very professional in Chennai. So you train like a professional and played. And the highlight of that period was when I was captaining Indian Bank, and I went out to toss with Sachin Tendulkar.
Which year was this?
This was in 98. He was playing for Sungrace Mafatlal in Moinudollah tournament, which is in Hyderabad.
That's amazing. In 98, by this time Sachin is already a superstar. He's still playing club cricket.
No, he was emerging there at that point of time, and then he was playing Sundays. See, Moinudollah is not a club cricket. I mean, it's closer to first class cricket, I would say, because it's one of the big tournaments like our Buchi Babu tournament, which actually acts as a launch pad or a selection tournament for state teams.
How much did Sachin score in that game? You remember?
I don't remember exactly, but all I remember was that I went out to toss with that great.
You mentioned at this point that you were thinking in your mind of combining the sport with tech and all of this, right? So in your mind, are you now thinking in terms of a solution?
Yeah, I was coaching, and I said, why not a software for coaching? Then we also realized that there's no platform for club cricket. So he said, when Meru became an IT company, and the first project I came up with this idea of a portal for local cricket, for domestic league cricket, and from under 10 to state. The media covered the first division cricket,
right?
But it is the grassroots which need to be covered for them to provide the enough motivation to play the game, and they need to be recognized, and that is what people play for. So we said, okay, let's have a portal called tncricket.com, which used to collect all scorecards and post it there. And we wrote articles about budding talent and all that.
Did it happen?
Yeah, it happened. And it's a pay site at that point of time. So when I presented the model to my company, and they said, I said, let's sell it to a brand. They said, it's a good business, so we'll run it ourselves. So it was 300 rupees per kid per year.
Oh, wow.
And those days, and unfortunately, it was well appreciated by people, because we took a lot of pain to collect all the scorecards, and that actually became the driving point for the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association to send scorers. So we actually went and suggested to the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association to send scorers for every game.
So until then, there were no scorers from TNCA.
Official scorers, official scorers are not there.
Right.
It's only the team scorer, or
Got it.
if they had a scorer.
Anyway, you've created a cricket for about 6-7 years before it actually came into place, isn't it? In a way, for club cricket.
Club cricket, I mean, grassroots cricket, and I was more thinking from a coaching perspective, online coaching and all that stuff. Everything what I thought there became a reality as such.
Right.
But unfortunately, the internet was not well developed those days, and there are the buy-in. People felt the utility. Those who accessed it felt the utility of it. But the internet bandwidth was not that great. It never gave a great experience. But still, and we couldn't collect the content, because the scores were not, the structure was not there, where the scoring feeds were not able to come. So we went and suggested to TNCA to send scorers for every game, and they started 75 rupees, paying 75 rupees for the scorer. And today, that was the start for the scorers. Some of them earned their living by doing just scoring.
Wow, okay.
So I said, if you're sending umpires for every game, you should also send the scorer. So we started collecting those scores and started publishing those point of it. So even I'm talking about scorebook, an official scorecard, scorer being sent, and money being paid for the scorer, because you had to create the motivation for people to come and score.
So this must also be the first instance when a cricket association, any state association, is officially recording club cricket scores.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. We did that. It's a very organized setup in TNCA. So one of the best league system in the country, and very organized setup as far as the league matches are concerned. And when we said, okay, what next? Okay, that was the first one. Then people didn't take us seriously in the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association also. There's no real contribution in terms of, so we actually did the first registration system. We automated the entire registration system for them. And all the
what does that mean, a registration system?
All the players were registered.
Right.
They had a registration system earlier, which is more again on the hard copy and the manual side. For the first time, in 2001, we started registering the players digitally. We started digitizing the registration process. And so again, not much of, they said, okay, fine, he's trying to do something, let's encourage him. That was the kind of attitude.
So that means you're in a way digitizing the information about the player.
Data collection process started then.
Right. Okay.
That is the base, because you first have to create the player, right?
Yes.
And so we started providing unique IDs for the player, and we started registering the players. And we came up with a lot of things which we found were fundamentally wrong with our league system.
Like what?
In the same tournament for different teams.
Oh wow! Okay.
Age factor.
Right.
A lot of rules were really
too many of these.
The rules were there, but you never had systems to. It's not possible for you to really find out a lot of things. In fact, some of the things were so bad that people said, "Let's not reveal it outside." And so when that started, then I realized that still they are not feeling the impact of my work. So I said, I collected the data. So what to do with the data? So we presented a report on the average age of the first division cricketers.
To TNCA.
And it was 29. And I said, you're spending crores of money on a first division league, and the return on investment is not going to happen.
Is it because it's too high or too low?
Yeah, average is too high. 29,
right?
You're almost gone. Yeah. You're expecting people from there to play for state or for India.
Right.
And it's not going to happen unless you bring down the average age. And that really made them sit up and take notice.
Wow.
And then they wrote mails to all the secretaries, and the average age was deliberately, they took a conscious effort to bring down the average age. I think now it's about 24, 25.
At this point, any other cricket association doing anything as remotely digital as this that you knew of?
No.
Right? Yeah.
So it was always, we were the first ones, and whatever I did, I always started with Tamil Nadu Cricket Association being our home. And so, there are a lot of known people who are part of the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association. So it is easy for me to put across my viewpoint and take them notice. But once I presented these kind of reports, it started they started taking it more seriously. So,
and somewhere around now, you started knocking at BCCI's doors?
No, at this point of time, I said, why not a software for coaching? And if there is no one, let's develop one, was what I said. So I was searching on the internet and along with T.A. Shaker, and we came across a video-based motion analysis system. And that was the start. And I wrote to them. They said, we wanted you to distribute our product here. I said, I wanted to buy it and provide services. Right. Just use it for mine, but they said they wanted me to become a distributor.
So there is is it an international organization?
Yeah, it's a New Zealand-based organization. It's called Silicon Coach.
Okay.
And that was the start. And I was convinced that it was very useful. So without saying each other, we signed an agreement. He was in New Zealand. I'm in India. I just wrote to him. We signed an agreement, and we started doing business. And when I went to the market, I was in for a surprise. There is a resistance to change. People didn't understand what we were talking about. Everybody said the naked eye coaching is more than enough. Right. Don't try to complicate it. The famous KISS concept, keep it super simple, was always the mantra of all the coaches. So wherever I went, I met up with resistance. And those days I didn't have money to buy a laptop.
But how was things outside India at this point? This is now 2001, 2002 types.
Yeah, everywhere, it was a novelty in terms of it is not... Again,
it's not like Australia was miles ahead or something like that.
No. Right. Actually, Silicon Coach launched the latest version in India first. Because at that point of time, they predicted India and China are going to be far ahead in sports than US.
Wow.
So, they had to build the market. They know that they'll come up at some point of time. And for the US market is very well-evolved market. So they said we'll go to India and China first and then go to US when the product gets stabilized.
So the system itself is one which takes video as input and then provides you analytics.
Absolutely. So that was the first time. See, coaching actually how it evolved was first is for naked eye. Right. So you thought that you had to go and watch a player play in person to provide feedback. Then we realized that we can do it with a video camera or a VHS tape. Those days were VHS tape.
Right.
So you had a mixer, all those complicated systems out there, and did that. And then when we went in, we made it simple, just a laptop and a camera, and we are connecting the camera to the laptop. And the video was there on the laptop, and people were able to see it immediately, get feedback immediately, and we started, displaying that. But people were assisting us in terms of, as I said, I didn't have money to buy a laptop, so I used to carry a desktop to the ground.
Wow.
And begged all the coaches to come and watch it. And they'll say, we'll come and look at it later. But it's all about, again, people were scared of the computers. People are scared of a laptop. Those days, absolutely no clue. The coaching, sporting community around the world are pretty rigid in terms of embracing anything new. You always go with the traditional things what they have done. So we changed that part of it to a great extent, and everybody was insecure. So when I went and showed, the coaches were insecure that they thought that it's going to replace them as a coach. So everybody thought that, okay, you input it and bang, 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 like it happens today it happens, like right. You screen somebody and then, all his strength, weaknesses are all going to come up. So everybody thought the same, and they said, they were not coming anywhere near that. I found it very difficult to even get appointments.
So who was your first paying customer for this?
I was lucky in the sense that Tamil Nadu Cricket Association again was the first one to give me that opportunity. Yeah. MRF Pace Foundation, Shaker bought the first copy. So the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association gave us an opportunity to present it to the zonal academy coaches. Right. The National Cricket Academy was conducting its camp, so I presented the videos out there, and I presented. And those days, every coach we used to go and meet up with them in all sports. It went to an extent where I heard that Virender Sehwag and Mahesh Bhupathi were coming to Chettinad School. So I immediately picked up my bag and went to Chettinad School. And one of my friends told me that there's an old man out there. He's Virender Sehwag's father, Westpace, Dr. Westpace. Right. So I went and introduced myself to him, and I said, I have something for highly techno-savvy coaches like you. And he put his arm around me and said, Ramky, I've never touched a computer in my life. But such was the enthusiasm of that man. He said, next day he landed up in my office and he bought a computer laptop, and he went through a training session with us for a week.
Oh, wow.
A man who was not touched any device in his life We made him very tech savvy. Today he's got multiple devices. The same with Abid Ali. Abid Ali, in fact, came from Sharjah, where he was working, and he was coaching the team. He came to us, spent 10 days here in Chennai, got himself trained.
Wow.
And suddenly a person who was not even, he's interacting with me from US on the Skype, he's saying, hey Ramky, I did this, I did that.
But do you know if Mr. Pace used it for Leander and Mahesh's game at any point?
He was more involved in the Asian Cricket Council, and he was trying to use it there, apply it there. And
at this point, it's also a very cricket coaching software, isn't it?
No. See, it can be applied to any coach. I went to golf. Met up with Viju Matani, who's a golf player, who's earlier with Color Plus. He's the owner of Color Plus. So we went and demonstrated to him, and he immediately said, install one at my house for a personal copy. And then he called us to come to Kodaikanal. And,
for him to monitor swings.
Swings. And Kodaikanal, he was conducting a camp with three or four industrialists, and we were there. And in his house, staying in his house and doing that. So we started spreading news around, making people aware. At this point of time, it's more making people aware and trying to sell the concept. But we're not making much of a progress. Everybody, was very rigid, and I was very convinced that multimedia can play a pivotal role. So I started providing, instead of selling, I said, let me show the world how it can be done. And I told my colleague there, hey, I don't know whether I'm going to be successful selling the software, but I know for sure one day I'll be known all over the world. And that really happened.
And that conviction, Ramky, because see, there is no precedent to this, right? Later on, I'll talk to you about how Indian team meetings happened at that point. Did that conviction come from your years in school coaching, where you've seen this, you put it to use?
I think so, because even when my company, I had after 1 year, the New Zealander came down, he wanted to have a chat with us, and I took it to the board of the company, and all the board members were there, and they went through the software, and they said, what does the software actually do? They couldn't understand, because they're not sports persons. But I was convinced, and the creator of that software became red in face, and but I was convinced that it can play a pivotal role. So we continued the relationship, and we started selling that. I was known as the Silicon Coach of India, and everybody, whenever I went, nobody was using anything. So a lot of hard selling, a lot of trying to gain their confidence. And when I started providing services, that really picked up. I started working with the MRF Pace Foundation. I started working with Bobby Simpson. And those days, you didn't have money to buy cameras as well. So when I went for the camp in CCI, that was the first time. I met Raj Singh Dungarpur, and he immediately said, come over.
But hold your thought there. The Silicon Coach of India is what your name was. Yeah. On that fabulous note, we'll take a break.
Yeah.
And when you come back, we'll talk about how the Silicon Coach of India changed the face of Indian cricket.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure that you do. We're IVM Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So we did this last week, and we had a pretty good response, and we'd like to keep it going. So if you are listening to an IVM podcast, take a screenshot of that, put it on your Instagram story, and tag us with it. And what we'll do is we'll repost it on our story so that people get a look at what you're listening to, and people who come onto our stories will get an idea of what kind of things people are listening to. Leave us a comment too, just don't tag us. Last week, we launched 2 new shows. We launched our first Marathi podcast. It's called Golgappa, hosted by a regular on our network, Trupti Kamkar. Actress Shivani Tangsale is the first guest of the show, and she talks about baking, her Everest climbing experience, and her love for theater. And we also launched the Filter Koffee Podcast, hosted by Karthik Nagarajan. On the first episode, Karthik talks to film editor Nishant Radhakrishnan about focus group screenings, OTT platforms, and the future of the Indian film industry. On The Seen and the Unseen, in part 1 of a 2-part conversation, Amit Verma talks to historian and author Ramchandra Guha about Mahatma Gandhi's early years and his life in South Africa. On the Hindi podcast Cinemaya, writer-director Tanuja Chandra joins Swati Bakshi to discuss how she started her career with TV and the joys of making thrillers. On Paisa Vaisa, we have a 1-hour exclusive episode with Morgan Housel. He's a partner at the Collaborative Fund and a former columnist on Wall Street. He does a deep dive into the psychology of money. That's a really great episode. And with that, let's continue on with your shows.
Welcome back to the show. So Ramky, at this point you said you met Mr. Raj Singh Dungarpur, and was that your segue into BCCI?
At that point of time, I was not really thinking of BCCI and other things. I was more about there is acceptance. Finally, there's somebody and this is one of the premier clubs. CCI is one of the premier clubs, and and Bobby Simpson's camp. We had Hanuman Singh, Nari Contractor, Vasu Paranjape, all the top coaches. So I said, okay, great. It gives me an opportunity to work with them. And those days I didn't have money to buy a camera, so I hired a cameraman from Bombay, and we started shooting the videos. And I was capturing the video. And I sat down to capture the videos. I found that he had taken only close-ups of all the faces of all the cricketers.
Oh, wow.
I was shocked. I can't go and request Bobby Simpson or Hanuman Singh, sir, I want one more, because the cameraman didn't shoot the video properly. And I asked him, hey, what have you done? And he said, I'm capturing their expressions. I burst out laughing, and that day I decided that I'll buy my own cameras, do my own shoot. So I bought a second-hand camera. So I started learning about video shooting. So I started doing taking a video. And because it's about taking a video for sports. It's very different. And as a coach, you know what kind of information every angle can give. So we really started picking up a lot of information, a lot of knowledge from there. And started working with almost I've completed around 20,000 cricketers in the company of all the top coaches in the world. And Bobby Simpson, Bob Woolmer. Bob Woolmer is an interesting story. There was an international cricket coaches conference in Sri Lanka, and during the Champions Trophy there. So Tony Greig, Bob Woolmer.
This is the 2003
Champions Trophy. And this is conference with Tony Greig, Bob Woolmer was there. So immediately when I sensed Bob Woolmer those days tried that, audio contact with the Hansi Kronia, right? During the game. So he was kind of a very techno-savvy coach. And so we all thought that. And I wrote to him immediately saying that I have something which is very, very new. And he immediately responded saying, I'm willing to share the dice with you.
Wow.
So I went to Sri Lanka and went there for the International Cricket Coaches Conference, and found that they said, you have to register, you have to pay 5,000 rupees to register. And I didn't have money. So T.A. Shekhar said, I will pay, let's register. And he paid the money for me. And I went in there, and because I thought I was going to present along with Bob Woolmer. So I said, why should I pay? But they were insisting that only if you are part of the conference, you can be allowed to register. I mean, you can be allowed to demonstrate. So then I went and introduced myself to Bob Woolmer. I met him for the first time, and so he shared the dice with us. And I found out that he didn't know how to connect his camera to his laptop. So he's actually connecting the camera to the projector and showing from there, from the camera itself. So I realized, okay, I always had a doubt that people using it outside of India, but once I found out that their knowledge was very limited, so that gave us a lot of confidence. So I was at the International Cricket Coaches Conference along with Bob Woolmer, and Bob Woolmer did the first part of it where he did from the video camera, handycam. And then he said, we all thought that this is the ultimate in coaching. And here Ramky S got something more, which makes our life much more effective.
So you're presenting this to an audience?
Audience.
At this point.
All the top coaches out there in there.
Right.
And so that was a big success and gave us a lot of confidence. Then news spread around. John Wright was there. I got introduced to John Wright. So John Wright said, you come and meet up in India. So suddenly out of the blue, he called up one day and he said, there is a cricket coaches conference and we want you to come and present on visual-based coaching for all the coaches. It's a 45-minute show. And I was thrilled. The opportunity to present to coaches like Kiran More, Prasanna Kirmani, Roja Binni, Sandhu, all the top coaches who all played India players. For me, that was kind of a big thing to go and present it to them. So the acceptance I was thrilled that the acceptance is coming there. So I went there and initially it was supposed to be a 45-minute session. So I started presenting on 45 minutes. And at the end of the session, John came to me and said, mate, everybody is loving the presentation. You have to continue for the whole day. And I did that. And at the end of the day, he came and asked me the most important question, which actually changed my life. He said, Ramky, there is a vacancy with the Indian cricket team. The money is not great, but do you want to join? I said, no Indian would refuse that offer. And I joined the team for 30,000 rupees a month. Straight away, I said, I'm on board. Then he said, okay, great. We are having a camp. You come over there and I'll organize everything. You come over there.
This is before the Australia 2003 tour to Australia.
Yeah.
But were you at this point aiming for this? Was this the end game for you from that perspective?
As I said, I just wanted to be accepted everywhere, and I whoever was willing to listen to me, and whoever was willing to try it out, I just went there. I didn't have any plans of here I go, here then I do this, and it was never structured. So but I went there, and it was in National Cricket Academy. The camp was there, and we filmed all the players. End of the day, John asked me to wait at the audiovisual room of the National Cricket Academy. And I was there sitting all alone. And he sent all the players one by one, all the big fives. And I didn't know they were evaluating me. So they came and they discussed very interesting discussions there. But I was very, very confident because I was doing that. I mean, I've done that for 20,000 cricketers. And being a good student of the game, you also pick up a lot of skill sets from all the top coaches in the world. I've learned from the best in the business. So, and day in, day out, right? That was, today, and I have so much of knowledge about, I can take on any coach in the world in terms of technique part of it or skill acquisition, all that part of it. Because you're just, passionate student of the game. So we picked up those and we started, telling the players at that level. I was very confident as to why something happened. And this is the first time somebody is explaining as to why it is happening. And that too, to an India elite level cricketer. So fortunately, everybody gave a good opinion and I was on board the Indian team.
Let's put this in perspective, right? I think everybody who's followed Indian cricket knows the impact that John has had. But prior to this, how was this working? Right? Before John came on board, what will be a typical Indian meeting before the game look like?
So John was in my opinion, he's the architect for setting up the high performance platform for the Indian cricket team. He laid the foundation and it got built up over the years through various coaches. And when we came in and we didn't have a physio, we didn't have we had a physio, but again,
it's like Dr. Ali Rani.
Dr. Ali Rani was a coach, but there was no trainer. The physio was all in one. So he brought in a physio, he brought in the trainer, and he brought in me as an analyst. So I was thrown in there, and I knew that I can play a great role in the skill acquisition part of it. But being part of a team is providing, one is helping them in their game preparation and providing strategies for winning, right? That is exactly what needs to be done. So I asked Rahul Dravid as to what kind of team meetings happen. And he said, nothing. We all used to assemble in a coach's room. It was all informal setup. We used to order French fries and samosas. And last minute, we'll have tea. And last 5 minutes, they'll say tomorrow's an important game. They'll say Kelo. Yeah. So that was what was communicated to me at that point of time. And I said I was a little taken aback. And I said, let's change this. So when I started asking for data on the opponents, they said, no, we don't collect anything. We just, a couple of us have played against them. So whatever we remember, we'll, pass it on to the youngsters. So I said, I asked Saurav whether he knew somebody in ESPN. And he said, why? I said, look, I want the complete tapes of all the Ashes series. Just happening. I mean, just England played against Australia in the Ashes, so I would want those tapes. So he said, okay, fine, I'll get it for you. And he landed in Australia with 25 VHS tapes.
Wow.
And my first tour with the Indian team in Australia, for the first week, I was locked inside the room, digitizing those 25 VHS tapes and then mining that and extracting the insights for the players.
For each player.
The first time ever, Indian cricket team had opposition intelligence. And it's all visual, and it's not gut feel based. It's all actual facts in terms of the strength and weakness of the opponents and the patterns around that. So we started doing that, and that was very, very well received by the team. Everybody found, hey, here's a guy who's doing something very different.
So at this point, who are the champions for you within the team? We of course know the team has the Fab Four. There's John. There's everybody else. But who's really believing in this in the playing 15?
At this point of time, everybody were skeptical. People were not seeing somebody with a computer. Then they felt that nobody can add value to them or create value unless you played at that level and you've seen it all, done it all kind of thing, right? So they never expected somebody who's not played that level of cricket to come and contribute to them. And furthermore, if I'm doing it with computers, all the more, they were kind of, what is this computer doing in the dressing room? They never thought that it's going to contribute to them.
Right.
Nobody ever thought that it's going to contribute to them. Because it's the first time ever, right? So we are providing intelligence to the team. And when I split open their batting and, formulated patterns of their own batting, our own players, and they came to know more about their batting than they have ever had before. As I said, small changes creep into your technique without your knowledge.
But were they receptive? We all know that the dressing room is also a battlefield of egos. They're all stars.
Absolutely. I mean, there is as I said, the people were skeptical before doing that. So I had to really prove myself, and the initiatives which we took regarding the opposition intelligence, game preparation processes which we instilled, gave people the confidence there. But still, people were not really very convinced of the role play. The entire role play as such. There are a few youngsters who actually asked, what level of cricket have you played? I mean, it's a very sarcastic comment where, to put you down. And I know that they were trying to push me back.
Right.
And I said, look, I have not played big level of cricket, but I know one thing for sure. Then I said, what? I know I'm far more intelligent than all 15 of you put together.
Backed by your data. Right.
So I had to push them back.
Yeah.
And immediately I followed up saying, I have the greatest respect for your skills. You guys are extremely skilled.
Right.
So forget about what level of the game I have played. If you feel that I'm creating value, I have a right to be here.
And it was interesting for us also in the audience. I think at that point we had never seen, when the camera pans to the dressing room, anybody sitting in front of a laptop. I'm assuming you're the guy who we all saw on screen, the guy with the laptop in the Indian dressing room thing, right? Yeah. And that tour also became, in a way, proof of your concept.
Absolutely. It started well for me. Fortunately, dressing room is a great place to be in when you're winning.
Right.
And for us, we had a great start to the tour, and performance was very good, and we won the match out there. I
remember, I think the first game in Brisbane it was a draw. I think
and then
Dada made 100 or something, and then Adelaide we won.
And I immediately went to. I took a lot of help from ESPN. I used to sit in their van and collected all the footages, different camera angles, everything which can help the players prepare for their game better. Every bit of information I was going in search of.
Right.
Then I said for the first time, which has not been done earlier, it is very important for, you get the view, what is shown on TV is from a bowler's from the behind of the bowler. But for a bowler to understand what he's doing and his body movements and everything, you need from the front. So the front view of the bowler is required. So I went and requested ESPN to give me all the front view of the bowlers. So that gave me additional input to talk to the bowlers as to what they were doing. And particularly it's very, very important for them when they're coming back after an injury or after a break. As I said, small changes creep into your technique. So how do you find out? And only if you are able to get the right content.
So I know it's different now, but back then, what is the lead time before you give? Was it at the end of day's play on every day or the end of the match? How much time? Because you will take a lot of time to digitize this and bring it back as well.
No, it is done real time. When we went, when I joined the team, it was done real time. Because I was very, very strong on the video front. Everything in the video encoding, video capturing, everything we were very strong because we had done for 3 years we were doing day in day out on that.
Right.
So we are kind of experts at that, and we are able to manage every situation. I was even climbing a ladder. It's about 25 feet to put my cameras out there to get the right camera angles. I was very particular about that because the way you position your camera is very, very important. And because based on that, only the coach is going to provide a feedback. So if I move my cameras to off stump, the stance will look as though you are open.
Right.
And the coach, if he's not aware of the camera calibration, he might change somebody's technique saying your stance is open, so bring it more closed. Right. Or if you have your camera on the leg stump, it's going to appear closed. For somebody who's having a normal stance, you're going to open them up. So it is very, very important that the camera our positions are very carefully understood by everybody. A lot of people today are doing video analysis, or they claim they are doing video analysis, but there are a lot of points which need to be taken to be made aware. It's not about doing something fancy, it's about providing the utility.
Right. So at this point, are you using the ESPN cameras or, the broadcasters' cameras, or are you also employing your own?
Yeah, we had, I just started with using ESPN cameras, and I know that they had multiple, you have a typical international match production is about ranging from 26 to 34 cameras. So whatever view you want, it's about, that is where my initial days of working on 20,000 cricketers. So what camera angle will give me what kind of information? So I clearly knew that, and I used to go and get the tapes from the ESPN and digitize that and provide that. And that's Australia was a big success. The team was very convinced of, and I started. First, it was kind of it's a big thing for me to be along with the Test cricketers, Indian cricketers. It's there, and slowly I settled down. I started bringing about a lot of changes, to help the players prepare for the team better.
You say jogging, and I'm telling you a story about a man who dated 3 sisters. You say boss, Kurla, and it's about a guy who went out to a party where they were selling beef. This is Anand Sivkumaran, aka The Croc. My show, The Croc's Tales. You give me a word, I'll tell you a story. Words aapke, kahani aapke liye. Do tune in on Monday and Thursday on the IVM website, app, and anywhere you get your podcast from.
So how did it pan out after 2003? Are you now a permanent part of the Indian Test team?
Yeah. So initially it was a big hassle to get things done, even to buy a laptop, because nobody in BCC also understood the role play. None of the players understood. So where's the question of the administrators understanding? So I had real issues there in terms of getting the laptop or anything sanctioned. It is one of the greats of the game. He actually intervened, and they said, is he asking a laptop for his personal use? He's asking for something for the team. And I used him, and I got all the laptops and everything was delivered to me the same day evening.
Was he a playing great or an exterior great?
Exterior great. I mean, Sunil Gavaskar was the person. He was there, and when I told him that I need better laptops and to provide better things, he said, "You're working with the Indian team,
right?
So you need to get the best."
Talking of the best, Ramky, one of the things is at least there has been before, this belief that if it has anything to do with technology, if it has anything to do with analytics, especially in sports, etc., we always have to look west, or in cricket's case, probably east towards Australia for this, right? At this point, you've introduced something to Indian cricket which I'm assuming did not exist anywhere else in the globe, right? So in that way, we actually laid the road for other international teams.
So when we started, people always said, is Australia doing it? So we were always kind of trying to follow other countries, but we're not trying to lead. We're trying to follow, but we are expected to beat them. We are glorifying them in all the coaching manuals. We say Australia is superb and all that, but we are expected to beat them. So we said, we will make the world follow what we are doing. India is a hub of technology. Why not we make the world follow what we are doing? And we started collecting data at the back end. So I realized that if I don't have the videos of the players, I'll be helpless. I'll be ineffective. So how do I get information about the opponents? So we started setting up the back-end team, which was the first of its kind with any cricketing board. And this was not because anybody insisted on me. I just did it out of my own investment. Nobody paid for it. Everything was paid by me, and we set up the backend system. We started recording all games which happen on television, and then we started mining that and providing the insights. So because it worked well in Australia and in Pakistan, where we beat the team Pakistanis in both the ODI and Test, which is again a record of its sorts. So back-to-back successes, we started building up more and more rapidly. And then we had about, 2005, we were playing South Africa, and we had about 40 games of South Africa.
Wow.
40 matches of every player was there. So I went and told Greg that, hey, this is all the information we have. Tell me when we can sit down and have a look at it.
So at this point, Greg Chappell has taken over the Indian team in that controversial period.
Absolutely. Slowly with the John Wright, I settled down. I became to be known as John Left. Because I always sit on the left side of John Wright. So people here in Chennai name me as John Left. And very enjoyable period with John. Tremendous confidence. He gave me the space for me to do all the innovations which I had. And this was absolutely essential because getting the buy-in of the coach is very, very important. The coach should not feel that you're trying to do too many things or trying to over-impress or trying to serve information which is not necessary for them. You're trying to complicate it. So, but John had the confidence in us. After the initial period, then he could sense the kind of change we can bring about.
In this period, Ramky, which are some of the players for whom you've probably created most impact through this? I'm assuming John's confidence would have come from that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think even my first evaluation session where they said Harbhajan Singh and Anil Kumble was there, and I told Anil a few points as to what he was doing, and he asked me, what do you feel after looking at the videos? And I said, can I tell you frankly? And he said, go ahead. And I said, there are a few points. If you're looking to improve, you can consider the following points. And I started outlining one by one from his run up to his delivery, and then he said, Ramky, I've been bowling like this for the last 15 years. I said, Anil, if you're looking to improve, you can consider these points. So these are the points for you. And he was very convinced with the reply. And he actually then worked with Terry Jenner, Shane Warne's coach in Australia. And he said, Ramky, I want you to be part of the analysis session. So one by one, each incident where every player we brought about a big difference. We made a big difference to their understanding of their game, understanding how they prepare from their own perspective and from the opponent's perspective. I was giving all the vital insights for them. Other than that, you're also, helping them with their music and all the iPods is just introduced and, and I was very, very confident of multimedia. So, I downloaded all the best music, and took it upon myself to be the official music supplier for the team as such.
So you're the Indian team's first DJ of sorts.
Absolutely, and we brought it. We brought a speaker also. I got one of my friends was working for Apple, and he gave me a speaker from Apple, and we introduced a speaker into the room those days, and we started playing music and in the dressing room as such.
And jokes aside, I think music at this point and even today, I think, is a very important part of preparation for a
absolutely.
Cricket.
That is one thing which I observed when everybody goes for the game in the bus. Everybody had those big headphones, noise cancelling headphones, and they were all. I know the kind of music they'll all listen to. And one of the trips I met Kumaresh Ganesh, who are the violinists,
right.
And he was my classmate, schoolmate, and I was discussing with him, and he said, "What players listen? How do they prepare and unwind?" And I said, "They all listen to music." And he said, "What music? Hindi music or English? What are their preference?" And then I asked him, "Is there any ragas or swaras which can help them prepare or unwind better?" And he said, "There are sapta swaras and 7 chakras in your body. So each swara can be used to manipulate a chakra." And I said, wow, there are only 2 people who will appreciate all these things in the team, which is Sachin and Rahul Dravid. So based on their own attributes and traits, personality traits, he prepared a clip for each one. Very distinctly different, very unique. Because I asked Sehwag to listen to what prepared for Sachin, and he was not able to listen for 30 seconds. So we prepared that clip, and both of them listened to it, and they used it. Sachin has it in his iPod, and he used it meticulously to...
and it worked for them?
Worked for them.
Yeah. You have an interesting history with Sehwag, and especially the Multan 100, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to just go through that?
Sehwag was not performing. He was not scoring runs suddenly. And as is my want, I used to keep looking at all the videos, trying to see if I can catch out something there, which they are not aware. My main job is to bring it to their awareness as to what they are doing. My job is done if I do that. So when I found that there was a change in his stance, I called up Viru and said, hey, I have something to discuss with you about your game. And he said, I'll come. And we spent about close to 2 hours discussing about, and he was able, I didn't tell him anything. I just put the video, compared both, and put it up there. And
he had changed his stance from what it used to be, is it?
And he was not aware.
Oh, okay. Oh, subconsciously.
So he was not aware what he was doing. So when he was doing well, his body stance was, the spline angle was very correct. And when he was not doing well, he was crouching more.
So there's a correlation between that and this.
So then we started discussing about that, and we found out that you become uncomfortable when you crouch more. You find it difficult to face short balls and all that, and that really helped him. And he started changing his stance and started playing well, and goes on to score his 100. But more importantly, he had the heart to dedicate it to me.
That was amazing. This is the Multan 100 that he made. Right. So later, in your career, I'm assuming at some point your organization, which is SportsMechanics, gets built. And was it around this point? How long were you there with the Indian team?
I traveled from 2003 to 2007. So 2006, the concept of SportsMechanics was born there. And, we started SportsMechanics, and I moved out I wanted to be an entrepreneur. The entrepreneurial streak in me was always there. So I moved out and, started SportsMechanics. And we started in Chepauk Stadium. Before that, my office was in my bedroom. And then we went to a garage. And then we got, working with TNCA. And they gave us a space there at 8 rupees a square feet.
Wow.
Which you would not get in Queen Victoria's period as well. But they were generous enough to give us the space. We were servicing with them as well. So we built up that. And it was fun there. It's a great place to be in. And we all loved the atmosphere there. We didn't have meeting rooms. So meeting rooms happened at the ground. So we used to have the meetings inside the ground. There was a game going by, or
this is inside the M.A. Chidambaram Stadium.
So we had a fantastic office there, and I think that was a very vantage point also. And whenever the players came and played for the game, we were there. They used to visit our office. They got to see what we were doing. So those are the important days. The basic days, and the support you received from people at those days, whether from BCCI or for TNCA, all that paid off actually.
Did IPL actually sort of help the whole process of data within cricket? Because now there are big money, there are corporates involved, and science is more important than ever.
Yeah, I think nobody thought of it as a business, right? And today it's a big business. In fact, it's doing, for some of the franchises, doing better than some of the regular business. So I think people have realized how IPL has grown. And that's why we have a lot of development activity. And the economy is well created there around the IPL. And that's put us on the world map. Sports economy in India was put on the world map only because of IPL.
Yes.
I think that is phenomenal which has happened to India as such. And we observed that people were taking decisions based on gut feel in terms of the player auction. Because nobody knew the first time ever, auction was going to be held, players were not comfortable, everybody. When we observed for the first 2 years, we didn't know what was happening. And then, we realized that, how analytics can play an important role in their decision making there, how you can help them buy the players. Because it's about the combinations. Your entire outlay for the season depends upon the combinations you get at the auction, and the big auction.
Right.
If you make your choices right there, then your job is half done.
So
but whatever amount of combination, if you don't get the combinations right, whatever analytics, whatever thing, it don't work because your base is not there. You need that combinations. You need to make the right decisions to pick up the right players. And if I'm making, a lot of people are making very emotional calls and just by gut feel. And all we told them was gut feel is good, but you married with the statistical layer on top. And together there is a greater chance of your audition in the beginning, but still not much of buy-in. So it was only after we saw Moneyball and we had a DVD in hand. So whenever we went to a franchisee, we asked them, hey, have you seen Moneyball? They'll say no. Okay, please see this and we'll discuss later.
Right.
So otherwise, they were never understood the value. Even today, I don't think the value of an analyst is really understood well by everybody in the ecosystem. It's all
who are some of the franchises who appreciate this more?
Now today, everybody is getting into it. Everybody is trying to make it more and more. What we are saying is, yes, there are people. The methodology is applied to procuring the players, and the strategy is there. How it can be helped better with the talent scouting. I can get the videos of all the players in the world, and same way the domestic players. So everybody there, and you scout for talent sitting there.
Is there an example of a player that you might have unearthed or understood as valuable basis data, which and then who probably might have become a bigger name after that, who we might have probably missed if we didn't take this approach?
See, it is all about how much of information you have about the players. See, if you're going to take a decision based on data, then you need substantial amount of data sets, right? So at that point of time, nobody is collecting data. So ball by ball data, there is not much of information about the domestic cricketers. But since we had all the international cricketers already collected, so we were at a distinct advantage where we can provide a lot of value for the for the team. But it is essentially more from a video perspective as to for the players in terms of their strategizing and game preparation. But later on, when we built all the models to get into performance measurement and how we can help them in the auction, and that is where we said, okay, how we can optimize their spend. You're spending 80 crores. 80 crores on gut feel alone will not work. So how we can optimize your spend. And in fact, one of the franchises said, you guys are expensive. So I said, look, I'm trying to optimize your spend. I'm only asking you a single digit percentage for that.
Right.
It's very, very minimal for the
while you're saving them probably multiple crores.
More money. So, but they still were not convinced. They said, are you trying to say that you can add more value or more wisdom than the players themselves? Because the players had their own system of, it's very effective because every player would have played against somebody. So they had a huge network. So if I'm getting a player from, say, the Caribbean islands, so they contact the Caribbean players. And they would have played against the domestic players, and they say, oh, pick up this player, he's very good. I've faced him, it's very difficult to face him. So that is more important. Actually, it's a very, very important element because nothing like a player saying a player is easy or difficult to play. Or he's an effective batsman, he's brilliant and all that. While we have that part of it, we are saying sometimes it can be wrong. And there are a lot of instances where we could see that if I'm a South African coach, I try to back players from South Africa. Or if I'm Australia, so naturally I have to bring in more players from Australia.
So you're essentially taking out the human interpretation angle out of the game.
No, human interpretation is necessary, is important, but needs to be validated with the data as well to get it more right, to make it more effective.
So Ramky, you've created this in cricket, and as a larger sports fan in India, I know that a lot of other sports can benefit, with this level of professionalism, this level of thinking, analytics, etc. Right? I'm sure you must have thought of this as well. Any other sport where where you're seeing this kind of thing unravel?
Yeah, I think we were not restricted to one sport. Once you do for one sport, then it's easy to replicate in others. The concept is the same. So we started working with the Indian hockey team. Michael Nobbs was a coach in Australia, and when we went and told him that what we can do, he immediately was very impressed, and they said, you're part of my support staff. And we joined the team there, and we've been working with the Indian hockey team. A lot of insights, again, a lot of data, a lot of differences made. Then we're the only company, SportsMechanics is the only company in India which has worked for multiple Olympic sports in 2 Olympics. The Indian contingents for the Olympics. London, we worked with the weightlifting, boxing, athletics, table tennis, hockey. Rio, we worked with the hockey and boxing. I think there is a lot of work which we can do on badminton, any sport. I think there is plenty of work which can be done. And all we are trying to do is to unlock the new possibilities which can be done with the new technologies.
And you're finding John Wright kind of partners in these sports as well, or is it more difficult?
I think the market is much more evolved now. While there is resistance in every sport, people, for instance, in football, people say that, okay, we are from, Europe and we have advanced analysis there. I think India can be a global leader in sports analytics. We can be a powerhouse there. And I think every Indian has an inherent strength in data mining and data warehousing. I think that's one thing which I strongly believe that we can add an edge. And that's what happened when I told the director of the Sports Authority of India. And I told him that, unless we have this edge over others, and we have to provide this extra edge to all our athletes. And then he said, what you're saying is very logical, but how do we implement? And I said, look, you have to do it from the top. So, how we can collect data about our own athletes, about opponents, and then mine that and provide the insights. I think we can clearly add, and in fact, I remember Sahana Kumari, she was a high jumper. She was not expected to qualify for Olympics. Sports Authority of India were not expecting her to qualify. We were working with her in NIS Patiala. My colleagues worked with her for about 25 sessions. They identified patterns, brought it to the awareness of the coach and the athlete. And again, as I said, small changes creep into your technique, and she was not aware of what she was doing. And we brought it to her notice. She was able to remodel, and, she qualified for Olympics.
Wow.
Now, can you put a number to that? It's invaluable, right? Making a person qualify for Olympics is something it's not much of an investment. It's just a small handicap, which did the trick. It's not talking about advanced biomechanical analysis and all that. It's a simple handicap which did the trick. So how much of this video information can help in multiple ways? I can use it for motivating myself. I remember I gave Sachin Tendulkar a capsule of all his best performances.
While he was playing?
While he was playing. And he used it for preparation, for positive reinforcement. He used to see it and only go to sleep in a positive frame of mind. So video can be used for multiple purposes, not only for analysis about how you got out, why you got out, or any technical thing. It can be used for motivational purposes. It can be used for talent scouting. It can be used for multiple purposes. So I think video is there, and it can't be bypassed. So I think now with the coaching has progressed towards having sensors now. IoT has come. I think the way we do things are totally different to what we were doing earlier. So the new possibilities today are very, very different. And with the AR, VR, I think phenomenal amount of impact can be brought about in skill acquisition, in game preparation, in every decision making around sport in a quantitative manner. Which I said, selection is a huge problem. The data which we helped using the scoring app. Earlier, we found out that in certain state associations, there were instances where the scorecards were manipulated. A person has not played the game, but the scorecard showed him as scoring 100.
Even now or back then?
Sometime back.
Right.
Okay. But how do we have systems now? But now the digital scoring, 2 minutes, 2 seconds, it's all there in the public domain. So nobody can manipulate it.
And I know you're working with multiple cricket associations and digitizing all levels of club cricket.
Absolutely. So enabling, we got into sports technology to enable people to collect content, collect data. And then once the data is there, then it can be used for multiple purposes, whether it is for skill acquisition, whether it is for performance monitoring, talent ID, talent development. Today, we know how many cricketers, what kind of left-arm fast bowlers are there, left Chinaman bowlers are there, how many off spinners are there in the whole country at a click of a button. So that's a kind of effect which once the data is collected, what you can do with the data is phenomenal. And the change you can bring about is phenomenal.
I remember, I think there was an interview of Andre Agassi recently, where he was asked how did he manage, I think was it Becker?
Yeah, Boris Becker.
And then he said something about how his tongue went to one direction.
One corner,
and that's how he knew it was going to be a certain kind of a shot. Any such interesting, because you've analyzed so much videos, Any such interesting quirks you've seen on cricketers?
I mean, there are plenty of occasions where we've identified patterns. I remember in 2 back-to-back series with Sri Lanka, we got somebody as good as Jayasuriya within the first 3 overs. In 10 innings, out of 10 innings, 8 innings, we got him in the first 3 overs. Because we found out there was a technical flaw and we started exploiting that. And Ajay Dagarkar or Irfan Pathan used to get him out within the first 3 overs. And if you're getting a player like Jayasuriya out,
and sometimes it's not just about technique, right? I remember there was an instance with, was it Ashley Prince, where it was more about a break in the innings.
So he had a pattern. South Africa, Ashley Prince, he got out immediately after a break. There are many instances where he's got out immediately after the break. So we knew that he was vulnerable during those areas. After the break, immediately he can be targeted. It's all about what you do in the first 20 balls or 20-25 balls before the player gets his eye in, and how you can make it difficult for him to score. So you don't give the balls on his favorite areas. So he tries to convert, and that's what you want him to do, which increases your chance of getting his wicket. So it's about identifying. Everybody has patterns. You play in different conditions. It's all about very, very few people whom I have come across who change the game based on the conditions and situation. And Sachin Tendulkar is one. Stroke play is very impulsive. You play from your subconscious, right? And here was a man who said he's not going to play his cover drive.
The 2008 Sydney Test.
And he goes on to score and doesn't do that for 200 runs. So such phenomenal, the way they prepare. I mean,
and he actually called it out before the game, right? He said, I won't play the cover drive until I get to 200.
Yeah, it's about how people prepare. I mean, you've seen these greats prepare, and you're always in a high performance environment. And to the end, I started really predicting, hey, he's in the zone today. How do we get into the zone of optimum performance? I mean, that's something which people have to think about.
What's your marker for knowing that Sachin is in the zone?
I mean, he literally used to make loud with his bat. He'll do everything possible with that bat. That he's getting into the play. And one of the occasions where it happened with Rahul Dravid and Sachin, I was out of the team, and the team was traveling to Sri Lanka, and they had come to Chennai. So I had gone to meet all these players. And suddenly, Sachin didn't, talk to me. And he didn't recognize my presence also. I was kind of, worried. And I called up Anjali and said, hey, what's happened? Is Sachin angry with me or what? Why, what happened? No, he's just not talking to me. She said, no, that's the way he prepares for a series. So they will shut out everybody from there. It's phenomenal, to know how they prepare and the kind of discipline one has. It's impossible for somebody to live like that. I mean, not going out of the hotel room on the eve of a game, trying to be focused. I mean, the preparation is same for whether it is you're a debutant or a great. And all these people don't change their preparation time. And it's when you're becoming successful, everybody wants your time. And the adulation in India can sweep anybody off their feet if they're not careful. So how do players, handle success, handle failures? That's very, very important for them. And there's a great knowledge transfer which has happened from generation to generation within the cricketers. Everybody, are aware of how to handle things. People are briefed about today, they are fortunate enough to have. And we always see people, I always tell them, hey, the big five, you just have to watch how they prepare. The work ethics were phenomenally good. Amazing work ethics, amazing discipline. If I have to go to the gym, I have to go to the gym. That's it. If I had to be at the ground, I had to be at the ground. So awesome, preparation, and that's why they lasted for so many years. Right. So success
again, such a amazing bowling attack.
Absolutely, right? And how well you're grounded. I mean, those are the lessons we learned in life. I mean, that 5 years in me, I mean, it changed me as a person. From a lot of life skills were learned during then. It is how grounded you are. The more you become successful, the more humble you should become. You'll be a success. I mean, I think that works very well in India as such, because the coaches, high profile coaches have not worked for us. They've been a failure. Whereas low profile coaches, people who have not played the game that high, have been a success.
Manager cricket affairs has been more successful than coaches these days. Right?
I think there is a lot which one can pick up from everybody. So it's about how to handle that success, because it's very, very important. Otherwise, the adulation in India, especially, it'll sweep anybody off their feet. That's why you have a lot of these one series wonders. They all come up and they don't know how to handle success. But I think the BCCI has put in some measures where such knowledge transfers and how people learn how to handle success, how to conduct themselves.
So is this, according to you, since you've been involved for so many years now, is this the best touring team you've had?
I think we've always had a good combination. As I said, it's about getting the right combinations and the right players. Maybe sometimes where the players have got injured and you didn't get access to those players, those talent. Especially it would have been different result if those players were available. Right. So sometimes it may not be that, but I think overall what has changed big time is the culture, training. Fitness, everybody is conscious of it. I think it's phenomenal to see the Indian team being so conscious about their fitness. I think we have gone a notch up higher in terms of our fitness levels. And it's also showing up on how we play the game as such. Our fielding levels have been very, very good. Really good. And I think there is one more change is that the coaching staff, and you find that the Indian coaching staff, whenever we have done very well, I think we have had the Indian coaching staff at the helm of affairs.
You've spent a lot of time in sports, and I know that you have a lot of knowledge today on high performance psychology and what is the optimum playing zone, etc. And you work with athletes across disciplines. Right? Today, when you step back and look at the Indian sport scenario, what are the three things that you predict for us? What are the three things that you think will be the most exciting thing that is yet to come when it comes to Indian sport?
I think the way people prepare for the game, the technologies are changing, and so what you can do with the new possibilities. Okay, there's phenomenal amount of game preparation which you can do with the AR, VR concepts, and how you can do that, and all with the IoT and all the sensors. There's so much of information which can be done, and every information is a game-changing information. The other one is in terms of the fitness. As I said, fitness has come in and people are conscious of the fitness. Today workload monitoring has become a big important element. Because if you don't know, if you play in a game in a city like Chennai, your hydration starts 3 days before the game. So the trainer will go wild if he sees you without a bottle. So you need to hydrate yourself very well. And, if you don't hydrate, then your performance, if you're dehydrated, your performance drops down drastically. So it's very, very important for every player to know what his body type is and what he should eat, what he should not eat. And but I think the way you prepare for the game can change. But I think the biggest thing which should happen, will happen, is the mental conditioning part of it. How can we make our athletes tougher? And get them into because as I said, it's about getting into the zone of optimum performance. So how do you prepare the players to get into that zone? You virtually have to hypnotize them into high performance. So how do you do that?
We actually at some point had a hypnotist in the team, isn't it?
We had Sandy Gordon, sports psychologist. We had Rudy Webster traveling with the team doing there. But the thing is that at that point of time, the awareness was not very high, and not many people utilized their services effectively. It could have been done much better, but people were not reluctant to go. I think that is an important area to be addressed, and it's important to profile for the athlete himself to know, does he have the big match temperament? What are the areas where he can improve on those in the terms of, and how do we, now that once he is profiled, then what are the interventions which are required. How does one get into that mode? And how do we get people into, because it's a high anxiety area, the anxiety levels are very high, and you're expected to perform every ball, and one bad decision, you're out. Okay, every second you are making a decision to go on the front foot or the back foot. That's why I say sportsmen are better decision makers. Because they take the decisions very quickly, because you're tuned to taking decisions every ball.
Especially a batsman, right?
One
mistake is
one mistake.
Whereas
the bowler gets a second chance, whereas the batsman never gets a chance. So I think the mental conditioning part of it is an evolving area. I think there is a lot of work on the neuro part of it also. I think the way it's going, probably it may not be a long way before we see decisions taken on whom to go into bat based on their mental state. In a quantitative manner. I mean, you with all the EEG sensors, people can find out whether positive frame of mind or negative frame of mind. I think such things are going to happen, will happen. It's about people are going to take to any depths to enhance their performance.
Yeah, and that I've always found it amazing that players like Flintoff or Smith or Ponting especially, they're all been able to elevate their game. When the pressure is really high. What you said at will. Move the needle on that.
Absolutely,
so that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely, there are. See, in fact, that's where I feel that your selection system also has to change to more using more data in terms of you have all these talk about players, but we need to identify players who can perform under pressure. But how do you identify? What are the metrics used to identify players? Cricket is a team game, but you're glorifying individual performance. Your scorecard glorifies individual performance.
Right. And so does the headlines. Yeah.
Okay. Is it time to reimagine the scorecard itself? Because the scorecard was years back and it glorifies individual performance. So if you go to the Nidahas Trophy where Rohit Sharma got 66, it glorified Rohit Sharma, 66. But we all know that Dinesh Karthik's innings was instrumental in we clinching the cup. So how do we reply? The impact of his performance is more important than the score he has made, the performance score. So how do we measure that? How do we effectively, segregate, bucketize players into high pressure, high impact players, high pressure, low impact, low pressure, low impact, low pressure, high impact. So if you were able to bucketize players under these in the quadrant and then pick up players, I think we'll be a lot more successful because traditionally selection has been made from scorecards,
right?
And the summary of the scorecard, right? But today you have ball-by-ball scorecards, ball-by-ball data. So the kind of analysis, the depth of the analysis can be very, very different in terms of identifying the right talent and, horses for the courses.
And I was just reading recently a book, which I think there is a team which is doing this, and I think Akash Chopra has also been involved in this, which is creating impact score for cricketers and then looking at who is the most impactful player across the board. You think more and more that will become the norm for selection itself?
I think it should be, right, in terms of applying that also while having the gut feel of the players, the selectors, because they're all experienced guys and people have an eye for talent. They will know the mindset of the player, when he is likely to perform, at what maturity levels he is in, and mindset he is in is very, very important for us. While saying that, but it is important also for us to have a reference of the data out there, and if the data says yes, and provided you also say yes, so it goes in. I think it gives you a better chance to come out with the right decision making. It has to be data driven.
Excellent. I mean, it's been most fascinating. Wish you and Sports Mechanics all the success in the coming years. I can't wait to see what you're doing with other sports in India. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Karthik. Pleasure being here.
So that was our show. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcasts.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, I am _Karthik, that's Karthik with an H, on Twitter, and Filter_Koffee, that's coffee with a K, on Instagram.
Family businesses get a bad rap. At one time, they were looked down on for getting rich, for being too ambitious. Today, they're still looked down on, but for not being ambitious enough. Not agile enough, not modern enough, too traditional in their mindset. The biggest brands and business houses in the country started out as humble family businesses. It's the way India has done business. Join Sonu Bhasin in conversation with stalwarts of Indian family businesses on the Inheritors podcast series by Bloomberg Quint. Discuss the highs and lows, the needs and pressure points of building a business legacy that spans generations.
Advertising is dead. Yep, you heard me right. Advertising is dead. We're all in the content business now. Let's not call it news, TV, radio, etc., etc. It's all content, and we're in the middle of this weirdly exciting phase where all the borders and lines that have been drawn over decades has been swept away by this lovely thing called the internet. We're a show where we don't dwell on just the stuff that is now, but rather the wider stuff about advertising, media, content, and the whole goddamn circus surrounding it. Tune in every Tuesday for our weekly unboxing of the mystery box we used to call advertising. I'm Virender Sehwag, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and this is my new podcast, Advertising is Dead.